The first thing I noticed about my husband was that he looked disappointed. It happened the moment he lifted my wedding veil. For the briefest instant, his eyes widened. Not dramatically, not rudely, just enough for someone who had spent most of her life studying people to notice. He had expected someone else, and instead, he found me. Lantern light glowed across the wedding hall. The murmuring voices of noble guests filled the air around us. Yet in that moment, the entire world seemed to narrow to the quiet space between us. Pak Yonghwa, eldest son of Duke Pak of the Southern Prefect and captain of the 9th Royal Squad, regarded the scar that ran across my face. Then he lowered the veil again. The ceremony continued, just like that. He did not protest, he did not question, and so I became his wife. My name is Song Minsu, eldest daughter of Magistrate Song of Baisung City. I was never meant to marry. That had been decided long ago. My father was a magistrate, but he had not been born into wealth or great power. The Song family belonged to what people politely called a modest noble line, the sort of family that possessed an old surname and a respectable ancestry, but very little wealth to accompany it. My grandfather had been little more than a gentleman farmer, who took pride in our lineage while tending his own fields. My father chose a different path. While his brothers remained on the land, he buried himself in books and devoted years to studying for the imperial examinations. Through persistence and a stubborn refusal to give up, he eventually earned a scholar's rank and entered government service. His position improved gradually over the years until he was appointed magistrate of our prefect. His marriage strengthened our fortunes further. My mother came from a wealthy household whose dowry enriched our family greatly, though wealth could not erase the fact that our lineage was still considered lesser than the oldest aristocratic houses. Still, the match was considered successful. For several years, my father lived a life of quiet prosperity, until my mother died, giving birth to me. For a long time, my father refused to remarry. But politics, like marriage, rarely cares about grief. Eventually, another arrangement was made. His second wife, Madame Song, was a distant relative of my mother's family. The marriage preserved the alliance between the two households and ensured that my mother's dowry remained tied to the Song name. Fortunately for me, Madame Song proved to be a gentle woman. She never treated me as anything less than her own daughter. Together, they had 2 more children, my younger sister Seyeon and our brother Yong-hwa. Seyeon was the jewel of our family, beautiful in the effortless way that made people pause when she entered a room. Her laughter was bright and warm, and she possessed the sort of charm that made friends wherever she went. Even I adored her, which is why I could never truly blame her for what happened next. When I was 10 years old, a traveling circus came to Baisung during the Autumn Harvest Festival. The entire city gathered to see the strange animals the performers had brought from distant lands: monkeys, elephants, and a tiger. I remember the smell of roasted chestnuts in the air, the press of people around the enclosure. The tiger's handler had been showing the beast to the crowd when something went wrong. Perhaps the animal smelled blood. Perhaps it simply grew bored of obedience. But suddenly, the chain slipped from the handler's grasp. The tiger was free. People screamed, the crowd scattered, but I was a child. Too slow, too startled. The tiger lunged. Its paw struck once, just once, but the claws tore across my cheek and down the side of my neck, continuing across my back, where they ripped through my clothing before the handlers managed to restrain the animal again. I survived, but the scar remained. From that day forward, society decided my future for me. I would never be a bride. Fortunately, quiet daughters have their own advantages, because quiet daughters hear everything. While my sister attended social gatherings and parties, I often stood at the edges of rooms, watching and listening. Servants gossiping behind fans, young couples whispering in gardens, married nobles pretending not to notice their lovers. Over time, I began turning those observations into stories. Eventually, those stories became something else. Under a secret pen name, I began writing romantic and scandalous tales, stories filled with passion and forbidden longing. They sold surprisingly well through discreet booksellers who catered to readers with adventurous imaginations. The money I earned was meant for a simple dream. One day, I would buy my own small home and live quietly without depending on anyone. Marriage had never been part of that plan, until my sister ran away. The marriage alliance with the Pak family had been arranged months earlier. The bride was meant to be Soyeon, The groom was Pak Yonghwa, eldest son of Duke Pak. He was only 22, but already commanded the 9th Royal Squad, a position that had made his name known throughout Baisung. People described him in many ways: brilliant, ambitious, clever enough to charm powerful men, and ruthless enough to destroy enemies when necessary. The alliance between our families would strengthen my father's political position considerably. Everything had been prepared, the wedding date chosen, the invitations sent. But on the morning of the ceremony, So-yeon disappeared. She had eloped with the man she loved, Kim Ha-jun, a young court official working in my father's office, and the second son of a wealthy merchant family. The scandal threatened to ruin us all, unless the marriage continued. So my father came to me. "Minsu," he said quietly, "you must take your sister's place." And so I became the bride. Pak Manor was enormous. After the ceremony, I was escorted there by carriage and shown to the western wing, where my husband and I would live. My maids, Sukja and Jihu, helped remove the heavy wedding ornaments from my hair before leaving the bridal chamber. A few moments later, my husband entered. He did not greet me. Instead, he poured himself wine, one cup, then another, then a third. The smell of alcohol filled the room. Eventually, he approached the bed. His coat hung loosely from his shoulders. He reached toward the ties of my wedding robe, then collapsed, directly on top of me. It took considerable effort to push him aside. The captain of the 9th Royal Squad was not a small man. When I finally managed it, he did not wake. For a while, I simply sat there, staring at the stranger who had become my husband. Then I sighed quietly. Carefully, I removed his boots, wiped the wine from his sleeve, pulled the blankets over him. If the servants discovered the groom had passed out before consummating the marriage, gossip would spread through the household by morning. So I extinguished the lamps and lay down beside him, as far away as the bed allowed. When I woke the next morning, Pak Yonghwa was gone. The servants informed me that the young master had already left for work. That was the first strange thing I learned about my husband. He kept unusual hours. Pak Manor was large enough that entire wings of the house felt like separate buildings. During the long hours when Yonghwa was absent, I explored. That was when I first noticed the doors. Golden doors. The first stood in the northern administrative wing, tall and smooth, made entirely of metal, with no decoration except the dull shine of gold. At first, I assumed it led to a storage room. But later, I discovered another in the southern servant corridor, then a third near the eastern guest halls, one in the western corridor, not far from my own residence. North, south, east, west. 4 identical golden doors, each locked, each strangely avoided by the household staff. At the time, I did not yet understand their purpose, but I remember thinking even then that Pak Manor was a house filled with secrets. That evening, I met my in-laws for dinner. Duke Pak was a tall man who carried the bearing of a soldier even in retirement. His hair had begun to gray, but his posture remained straight and imposing. His wife, Lady Pak, greeted me warmly and asked about my journey from my father's house. But Yonghwa was not present. "He usually eats later," Lady Pak explained gently. "My son keeps unusual hours because of his work." I nodded. "I will eat with him then." The Duke's wife looked pleased by this answer. Later that evening, she visited our wing personally, bringing a small chest filled with sweet pastries. "You are a kind girl," she said, as she placed the chest on the table. "I hope you and my son will soon bless this house with a child." I did not know how to respond to that, so I smiled politely. It was nearly midnight when Yonghwa finally returned. I had fallen asleep in a chair while reading. He woke me by touching my shoulder. "Why are you still awake?" "I wanted to eat with you." He seemed faintly surprised. I opened the ice chest and showed him the sweets his mother had brought. We sat together at the table while he ate and I poured tea. "What did you do today?" he asked. "I explored the manor." "Did you get lost?" "Not yet." He gave a faint smile at that. Then he said something strange. "My work keeps me busy during the night and day alike. Our schedule will not resemble that of most married couples." "I don't mind," I said. "I am not very adventurous." He stood then and walked around the table. His fingers touched my cheek, tracing the edge of the scar. I turned my head slightly. "I apologize for not being the bride you expected." For a moment he said nothing. Then he kissed the scar, slowly, carefully, as if it were something precious rather than flawed. I felt his breath against my cheek as his hand slid gently along my jaw, guiding my face toward his. The second kiss was softer, but far less restrained, and before long, the quiet distance between us disappeared entirely. That night, our marriage was consummated. The next morning, he was gone again. Only a short note remained beside the bed. Return to work. I will see you later. I folded the paper carefully and placed it in the drawer beside the bed. Then I began another day wandering Pak Manor. That was the day I discovered the breathing behind the western golden door. The breathing behind the western golden door was unmistakable. Slow, heavy, alive. I stopped walking the moment I heard it. At first, I told myself it must be something ordinary, perhaps a servant moving furniture in a storage room, or a dog belonging to the household guards. Yet the sound did not resemble footsteps. It was deeper, more deliberate, as if some great animal slept on the other side of the metal door. I stood there longer than I should have, listening. The corridor itself was silent. The western wing of Pak Manor was quieter than the rest of the estate, its halls lined with tall windows and polished wooden floors that reflected the afternoon light. My hand hovered near the golden handle, then I withdrew it. Curiosity had always been one of my greatest faults, but even I knew better than to open doors that did not belong to me. So I turned and walked away. Still, the sound followed me through the rest of the day. Not literally, of course, but in memory. Every time I turned a corner within Pak Manor, I found myself noticing something new about the house. The corridors were not arranged logically. Certain staircases seemed to lead nowhere. Others curved in ways that made it difficult to remember exactly where I had come from. Several times, I ended up in the same hallway, despite taking different routes. It was not the sort of confusion that came from poor design. It felt intentional, as if the manor had been constructed to discourage wandering. Later that afternoon, I encountered Song-uk. He was standing near the entrance to a smaller courtyard garden, speaking quietly with two household guards. The moment he saw me approaching, the conversation stopped. Song-uk bowed respectfully. "My lady." He was roughly the same age as my husband and carried himself with the same disciplined posture of a trained soldier. "You seem far from your residence," he said politely. "I was exploring the manor." "That can be dangerous." I raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous?" "Pak Manor is large," he said carefully. "It is easy to lose one's way." I noticed. His eyes shifted briefly toward the western corridor behind me, then back to my face. "If you ever wish to walk the grounds, my lady, it would be wise to bring a servant or maid with you." I considered this advice, then nodded. "Thank you, Captain Song-uk." He bowed again. But as I walked away, I could feel his gaze following me. That evening, I returned to my rooms and began writing. It was a habit that had comforted me for years. The desk beside the window had been prepared for me by the household servants, already stocked with ink, brushes, and paper. The story I worked on that afternoon involved a noblewoman secretly meeting her lover in a lantern-lit garden. The scene had reached the moment of their first kiss when Sukja entered to light the evening lamps. "My lady, dinner has been prepared." "Has my husband returned?" "Not yet." I closed the notebook. "Then I will wait." The sun had already set by the time Yonghwa arrived. The door opened quietly, and he stepped inside with the same composed energy I had noticed during the wedding ceremony. His eyes moved briefly to the untouched food on the table. "You waited?" "Yes." "You should not. I prefer to eat with my husband." For a moment he seemed uncertain whether to respond with irritation or amusement. In the end, he simply sat down. The dinner passed quietly, but I could not stop myself from asking the question that had lingered in my mind all day. "Do you enjoy living here?" He looked up. "In Pak Manor?" "Yes. It is my home." "That is not the same thing." He studied me for a moment. "You ask unusual questions for someone who claims not to be adventurous." I smiled faintly. "Perhaps I am more curious than adventurous." "Curiosity can be dangerous. So I have been told." His expression shifted slightly at that, but he said nothing more. The next morning he was gone again before dawn. By now, I expected it. After breakfast, I resumed exploring Pak Manor. But this time, I paid closer attention. And that was when I discovered something strange. The corridors near each golden door were subtly different from the rest of the house. The walls were thicker, the hallways narrower. Several turns seemed unnecessary, as if they had been added simply to complicate navigation. By the time I reached the eastern door, I was certain of one thing. All 4 doors must lead to the same place, a central structure hidden within the heart of the manor. But why hide it? That afternoon, I returned to the western corridor. The golden door stood exactly where I remembered, silent, still. For a long moment, I heard nothing. Then, a slow breath, followed by the faint scrape of claws against stone. My heart began beating faster. Whatever lived behind that door was no dog, and certainly no servant. I stepped closer, pressed my ear lightly against the metal. The breathing grew clearer, deep, heavy, almost like the steady rhythm of a great bellows filling with air. Then something moved. A low thud echoed through the courtyard beyond. I jerked away from the door. Whatever was inside had shifted, and for a moment I had the strange, unsettling feeling that it knew I was there. I should have walked away. A sensible woman would have done exactly that. But sensible women do not spend their evenings writing stories about forbidden lovers and scandalous secrets. So instead of leaving, I returned the following day, and the day after that. Each time, the same sounds greeted me. Breathing, occasional scratching. Once, a soft rumble that vibrated faintly through the metal door. Curiosity slowly replaced fear, until finally, one afternoon, something changed. The door was open, not wide, just slightly, as if someone had forgotten to close it completely. I stood there, staring at the narrow gap between the door and its frame. Beyond it lay darkness, and whatever creature had been breathing on the other side. For a long moment, I did not move. Then, I pushed the door open. The corridor beyond the golden door was narrow, far narrower than the hallways elsewhere in Pak Manor. The walls pressed close on either side of me, their smooth stone surfaces cool beneath my fingertips. The air inside the passage smelled faintly of damp earth and iron. For a moment, I hesitated. I had expected perhaps a storage room or a servant courtyard. Not this. The corridor twisted sharply twice before opening into a space beyond. Light spilled through the passage ahead, bright enough that I could see the outline of stone tiles and the faint shadow of tree branches swaying somewhere beyond the walls. I took one careful step forward, then another. The breathing was louder now, deep, slow, alive. My heart began to pound. Suddenly, the corridor ended, and the courtyard revealed itself. Stone walls rose high on every side, enclosing the space completely within the center of Pak Manor. The walls were taller than those of any ordinary garden, their upper edges lined with iron spikes, as if meant to keep something from climbing out. Or perhaps from climbing in. At the center of the courtyard stood a single old tree, whose branches stretched wide above the tiled ground, and beneath that tree sat a tiger. It was enormous, far larger than the circus tiger I remembered from childhood. Its fur was deep gold striped with black, the muscles beneath its coat shifting slowly as it breathed. The animal lay stretched across the stone floor, its head resting on its paws. For a moment, it did not move. Then its eyes opened, green, bright, and suddenly very focused on me. My entire body froze. Every memory of the harvest festival rushed back with violent clarity. The screams, the claws, the pain tearing across my skin. The tiger in the courtyard rose slowly to its feet. My breath caught in my throat. One step, then another. The sound of its paws against stone echoed through the silent courtyard. I could not move. The tiger stopped only a few paces away. Its head tilted slightly as it studied me. Up close, the creature was even larger than I had thought. If it lunged now, it could kill me before I managed a single step back toward the corridor. My fingers trembled. The scar along my cheek burned faintly, as though remembering the claws that had created it. I waited for the attack, for the flash of teeth, for the pain. But it never came. Instead, the tiger sat. Its tail flicked once against the stone floor. Then it simply watched me. Curious, almost puzzled. For several long seconds, neither of us moved. Finally, I managed to whisper, "You're not going to kill me, are you?" The tiger blinked, slowly, as though the question had confused it. Then it lowered itself back onto the stone floor. I do not remember leaving the courtyard. One moment I stood facing the tiger. The next I was halfway down the corridor. My heart racing, as though I had run the entire length of the estate. When I reached the western hallway, I leaned against the wall and tried to steady my breathing. There was a tiger inside Pak Manor. A tiger large enough to kill a grown man. And someone had built an entire courtyard prison to contain it. I told myself I would never return. That would have been the sensible decision. But curiosity has never been particularly obedient. The following afternoon, I found myself standing once again before the western golden door. The corridor beyond was silent. No breathing, no scratching. For several minutes, I stood there debating whether to leave. Then I stepped inside. The courtyard was quiet. The tiger lay beneath the tree, exactly where I had first seen it. Its eyes opened when I entered. But it did not rise this time. "You remember me," I murmured. The tiger's tail flicked lazily. I remained near the corridor entrance, ready to retreat if necessary. But the tiger only watched me with those strange, intelligent eyes. Eventually, I sat down on the stone step. We stayed like that for several minutes. Two creatures observing each other from a cautious distance. Finally, I stood again. "Well," I said softly, "I suppose this counts as an adventure." I returned again the next day, and the day after that. Each visit lasted a little longer. At first, I remained close to the corridor. Then I gradually ventured farther into the courtyard. The tiger never attacked. Sometimes it slept. Sometimes it watched me. Once it walked slowly across the courtyard and lay down near the tree again, its tail brushing the stone tiles with a slow, steady rhythm. Eventually, I began speaking aloud. It felt strange at first, but the courtyard was quiet, and the tiger was an attentive listener. So I told it about my day, about Pak Manor, about the strange golden doors. Once, while reviewing one of my unfinished stories, I even read several paragraphs aloud. The tiger listened patiently. Its ears twitched slightly whenever my voice rose or fell. "You're very polite for a tiger," I told it once. "You haven't eaten me even once." The tiger blinked, which I chose to interpret as agreement. Meanwhile, my marriage continued in its own peculiar rhythm. Every night, Yonghwa returned home late. Every morning, he disappeared before sunrise. At first, I believed this was simply the life of a royal guard captain. Important men in the capital often kept strange schedules, and Yonghwa's duties seemed to demand much of his time. But after several weeks, I began to notice a pattern. He never remained in the house after dawn. Not once. No matter how late he returned, he always left again before the first light touched the eastern sky. Gradually, I adjusted my own routine around his. In the early evening, I would dine lightly with Duke Pak and Lady Pak in the main hall. They were kind hosts and seemed pleased whenever I joined them, though I could not help noticing that Yonghwa rarely appeared at those meals. Afterward, I returned to the western wing. The servants would bring a second supper for my husband, which I kept warm until he arrived. Sometimes he came shortly after midnight, other nights much later. But eventually the door would open, and Yonghwa would step inside with the quiet exhaustion of a man who had spent the entire night working. Those late meals became our small ritual. I would pour tea while he ate. He would ask about my day. And for a little while, the house felt less empty. Yet even during those quiet moments together, I often felt as though something stood between us. Something invisible, but immovable. As if part of my husband existed somewhere far beyond my reach. One afternoon, while sitting beneath the courtyard tree with the tiger nearby, I realized something strange. "I think you might be my closest friend in this house," I said. The tiger opened one eye. "I know that sounds ridiculous." Its tail flicked once. "You are a terrible conversationalist." The tiger yawned, showing an alarming number of teeth. I laughed quietly. Yes, I know, you're a tiger." I watched the sunlight moving through the branches above us. "You are fortunate," I said. "You don't have to worry about disappointing anyone." The tiger turned its head slightly, studying me again, as though it understood. That evening, when Yonghwa returned home, he looked unusually tired. Dark shadows rested beneath his eyes. "You should rest," I said. "I will," he replied. But he did not. Instead, he sat beside me and reached for my hand. "Did you explore the manor again today?" "Yes." "Did you discover anything interesting?" I thought briefly of the courtyard, of the tiger. "No," I said. "Nothing particularly unusual." He studied my face carefully, then nodded. "Good." But something about his voice made me wonder if he had been hoping for a different answer. The following afternoon, when I entered the courtyard, the tiger was already waiting near the corridor, closer than usual. It approached slowly, one careful step at a time. My heart began beating faster, but I did not retreat. The tiger stopped directly in front of me, its head lowered slightly, as though examining the scar along my cheek. Then, very gently, it touched its nose to my hand. Warm breath brushed my fingers. For several seconds, I did not move. Then slowly, cautiously, I placed my hand against the tiger's fur. It was softer than I expected. Warm, alive. The tiger closed its eyes and leaned into my touch. Something inside my chest tightened unexpectedly. "I suppose," I murmured softly, "this means we are friends now." The tiger did not disagree. I did not yet realize how dangerous that friendship would become, or how closely the tiger and my husband were already connected. But soon enough, I would begin to notice the signs. And once I did, the secrets of Pak Manor would no longer remain hidden. By the 4th month of my marriage, Pak Manor had begun to feel less like a maze and more like a living creature whose habits I had slowly learned. The servants rose before dawn. Lady Pak walked the eastern gardens each morning. Duke Pak spent long hours in the stables, speaking with horse traders and visiting officers. And my husband existed almost entirely between midnight and sunrise. Our days unfolded in opposite halves of the sun. While he worked through the night, I spent the daylight hours wandering the estate, reading, writing, and, though no one else knew it, visiting the courtyard beyond the western golden door. The tiger had grown used to my presence. Sometimes it greeted me the moment I entered. Other days, it remained beneath the old tree, lazily watching the shifting sunlight across the courtyard stones. I had begun bringing it small offerings from the kitchens. Nothing too noticeable. A scrap of cooked meat, a bowl of broth. The tiger accepted these gifts with quiet dignity, never snatching or snarling as a wild animal might. Instead, it behaved with an odd restraint that continued to puzzle me. There were moments, brief, fleeting moments, when its gaze felt almost human. But there were other moments as well. Moments when the tiger seemed far less civilized. Once, while I sat beneath the tree, reading aloud from one of my stories, the tiger suddenly rose and began pacing the courtyard. Its tail lashed violently behind it. Low, rumbling growls vibrated deep in its chest. I stopped reading. The tiger continued pacing. Its movements were restless, agitated, almost frustrated. "You're in a terrible mood today," I said cautiously. The tiger ignored me. For nearly an hour, it prowled the courtyard before finally settling again. The strange thing was that those restless days seemed to follow a pattern. At first, I did not notice. But eventually, the rhythm became impossible to ignore. The tiger was calm on the days after my husband and I had shared the night together, and restless on the nights when Yonghwa had not returned home. The realization unsettled me. It made no sense. And yet the pattern persisted. Sometimes the tiger would lie beside me quietly while I spoke about my day. Other times, it seemed barely aware of my presence, pacing the courtyard as if struggling against some invisible chain. There were even brief moments when the intelligence in its eyes disappeared entirely. In those moments, it looked like nothing more than a wild creature, a predator. Those were the only times I felt afraid. Around that same time, I began to suspect something else. At first, it was only a vague sensation. A strange heaviness in the mornings. A lingering fatigue that even afternoon naps could not fully cure. Sukja noticed before I did. "My lady," she said one morning while brushing my hair, "you seem tired lately." "I have been sleeping poorly." "Perhaps you should consult the physician." I laughed softly. "Over a little fatigue?" But later that day, as I walked through the western corridor toward the golden door, a strange thought entered my mind. 4 months. That was how long it had been since the wedding. The thought lingered with me long after I pushed open the golden door and stepped into the courtyard. One afternoon, Lady Pak invited me to tea. We sat together beneath the shaded pavilion in the eastern garden, while servants poured delicate cups of jasmine tea. Lady Pak was a gracious hostess. Her manner carried none of the cold superiority some noblewomen displayed toward their daughters-in-law. Instead, she regarded me with a warmth that sometimes made me feel unexpectedly shy. "You have settled well into this house," she said after a while. "I am grateful for your kindness, mother." She smiled at the title. "My son has always been difficult." I had not noticed. That earned a soft laugh. "Oh, he hides it well. But Yonghwa has never been a man who allows others close to him." Her gaze softened slightly. "Yet lately he seems different." I did not know how to respond to that. Lady Pak lifted her teacup. "A house grows warmer once grandchildren begin to run through it." I nearly choked on my tea. She only smiled. Because of the visit, I did not go to the courtyard that day. By the time evening arrived, I had completely forgotten about the tiger. Yonghwa returned earlier than usual that night. I was still seated beside the lamp when the door opened. He stepped inside, and before I could greet him, he crossed the room in 3 quick strides. Before I could ask what was wrong, his mouth found mine. The kiss stole the breath from my lungs. This was not the careful, measured tenderness I had grown used to. There was urgency in him tonight, something almost desperate. His hands moved quickly, loosening the sash at my waist in a single impatient tug until the silk slipped free. His grip tightened around me, almost too strong, pulling me closer until the space between us disappeared. For a moment, I wondered if he realized how firmly he held me. His body felt unusually warm, and when he exhaled against my neck, the sound that escaped him was so deep it almost resembled a growl, yet there was nothing frightening in it, only hunger. A moment later, we collapsed together across the bed in a tangle of limbs and breath, like the reckless lovers I had written about so often in my hidden stories, but never imagined I would become myself. That night was different from the quiet intimacy we had grown accustomed to. There was urgency in the way he held me, and something almost fierce in his affection. Later, when the lamps had long since burned low, I remember thinking only one thing. It had been a night of unforgettable love. The next morning, I woke before dawn. For once, Yonghwa had not yet left the bed. The room was still dim with early twilight. I watched him sleep for several quiet moments. Then he stirred, his eyes opened, and something about the look on his face made my heart tighten. There was pain there, pain and urgency. Without a word, he rose from the bed and began dressing quickly. "You are leaving already?" I asked. "Yes," he said. He did not look at me. "I have work to attend to." Something in his voice made me sit up. "Yonghwa." He paused, but he still did not turn around. "I will return tonight," he said quietly. Then he left. A strange unease settled over me. Instead of returning to sleep, I dressed quickly and slipped into the corridor. Yonghwa was already halfway down the western hall. He moved quickly, almost hurriedly. Without thinking, I followed, keeping several turns of distance between us. He did not look back. The farther we walked, the more familiar the corridor became, until finally, my stomach tightened. The western golden door stood ahead. Yonghwa reached it first. He stepped inside. The door closed behind him. I approached slowly. My hand trembled as I pushed the door open. The narrow corridor beyond was empty, but I could hear something ahead, a sound I recognized immediately. Heavy breathing. Then, a sudden choking cry. It was a human sound, painful, raw. I hurried forward. The corridor opened into the courtyard. And I saw him. Yonghwa stood beneath the tree, gripping the trunk as if trying to steady himself. His back was turned toward me. His entire body shook. At first, I thought he was ill. Then his shoulders convulsed. A low, guttural sound tore from his throat. His spine arched violently. I froze. The sound of bones cracking echoed through the courtyard. His body twisted. Muscles rippled violently beneath his skin, as if something inside him were forcing its way outward. Yonghwa. The name died in my throat. His hands struck the ground. Fingers curled, then lengthened. Claws tore through the skin. Another terrible crack split the morning air as his spine bent unnaturally. His back rose, his shoulders widened, his entire body convulsed in a violent, unnatural motion. I could not breathe. Fur burst across his skin like wildfire. His cry turned into a roar, and before my eyes, my husband vanished. In his place stood the tiger. I stepped backward. The movement must have made a sound, because the tiger's head snapped toward me. Green eyes locked onto mine. Recognition flashed across its face. Then something else. Fear. It ran toward me. I turned and fled. My heart hammered wildly as I raced through the corridor. The tiger's paws thundered behind me. I stumbled. A massive weight slammed into the floor beside me. The tiger skidded to a halt in front of me. For several seconds, neither of us moved. Its chest rose and fell rapidly. Its eyes searched my face. And in that moment, I understood. The tiger was not a prisoner inside Pak Manor. The tiger was my husband. For several long seconds, the tiger and I simply stared at one another. My back pressed against the cold stone floor of the western corridor where I had stumbled. The golden door behind the beast stood half open, pale morning light spilling through the narrow passage beyond. The tiger's massive body filled the corridor. Its breath rolled over me in hot, uneven waves, slow, heavy, alive. Those green eyes searched mine with unsettling intensity. "My lord," I whispered. The tiger's ears twitched. For a moment, its expression changed. Something almost thoughtful passed through its gaze. Then footsteps thundered down the corridor. "My lady," Sang-ok appeared, sword already drawn. He froze the instant he saw the beast standing above me. "My lady, do not move." The tiger's tail struck the stone floor once, twice. Its muscles tightened beneath its striped fur. Yet the claws that could have ended my life remained still. Sang-ok slowly lowered his blade. "My lord," he said quietly. The tiger's ears flicked toward him. For one long moment, the beast seemed to hesitate. Then it turned abruptly and bounded back through the golden door into the hidden courtyard. The silence it left behind felt enormous. Sang-ok helped me to my feet. "My lady, are you hurt?" "No." My voice sounded distant to my own ears. "That tiger." Sang-ok closed his eyes briefly. "My lady," he said gently, "this is not my story to tell." Yonghwa returned well after midnight. I had been waiting beside a dying lamp for hours. When the door finally opened, he paused just inside the threshold. "You saw," he said quietly. "Yes." He closed the door behind him. For several moments, neither of us moved. Then he crossed the room slowly and sat across from me. His hair was damp from the night air, and the faint scent of horse and cold forest clung to him. "I had hoped," he said, "that you would never have to learn the truth. And yet I did." "Yes." I folded my hands in my lap. "Then tell me everything." And so he did. Years ago, Yonghwa had joined a hunting expedition deep within the mountains beyond Baisung. He had been young then, ambitious, eager to prove himself worthy of the Duke's legacy. "There was a tiger," he said quietly, "magnificent, larger than any I had ever seen. He had chased it through the forest for hours, until the beast fled into the ruins of an ancient shrine. I thought it had simply grown desperate," he said, "but it was guarding something." The tiger turned on him there. The battle was swift and brutal. His blade struck first. The tiger fell upon the stone steps of the shrine. And the moment its blood touched the altar, he said, the forest went silent. Only then did he understand. The tiger had not been merely an animal. It had been sacred, a guardian spirit bound to the mountain gods. The curse came with the next sunrise. He looked down at his hands. When the sun rose, my body changed. Into the tiger. Each sunrise stole his human form. Each sunset returned it. "The gods gave a condition," he said quietly. "A life for a life." The words hung heavily in the air between us. Our firstborn child. Silence settled over the room. My hand instinctively moved to my belly, protective of the child growing inside me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, I'd asked the question that had been burning inside me. "So that was my purpose." His head lifted sharply. "No, was it not? My father believed the sacrifice would break the curse. And you? I never intended to allow it." I laughed softly. "You expect me to believe that?" "I expect nothing from you," he said, "but it is the truth." The honesty hurt more than any lie could have. For several days afterward, I avoided him entirely. I had entered Pak Manor believing myself an unwanted bride. Now I understood something far worse. I had been a solution, a womb, a carefully arranged answer to a divine punishment. The anger burned quietly inside my chest. When Yonghwa returned at night, I pretended to sleep. When he left before dawn, I remained behind closed curtains. Yet he never forced the conversation. He never demanded forgiveness. He simply endured the distance, which somehow made it worse. Sometimes I caught sight of him in the corridors. The exhaustion in his face grew deeper with each passing day, but he never reached for me. Perhaps he believed he had no right. Perhaps he believed I would leave. Instead, I buried myself in the Pak family library. If the gods demanded a life for a life, then surely someone before us had found another bargain. I read every text on curses and divine law I could find, hour after hour, day after day. Meanwhile, Yonghwa continued his strange routine. He returned near midnight, he left before dawn, and the space between us grew heavy with unspoken thoughts. Until one morning, the curse came too early. The sun had barely risen when Yonghwa collapsed beside the bed. His body convulsed violently, bones twisted beneath his skin, claws tore through the wooden floor. The transformation ripped through him like a storm. The tiger rose in the middle of our chamber. Furniture splintered. My maids fled screaming. The beast roared in confusion and pain. For a moment, it tore through the room in wild fury. Then I stepped forward. Yonghwa. The tiger froze. Its chest heaved violently. Slowly, very slowly, the beast lowered its head. The storm passed. Sanok arrived moments later and stared at the destroyed room. "My lady, I will break the curse," I said. That night, I spoke to Yonghwa again. We stood beneath the dim lanterns of the western garden. "You will take me to the shrine," I said. He studied my face carefully. "You intend to bargain with the gods?" "Yes. That is dangerous. So is waiting." For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he nodded. "Very well." We rode into the mountains under moonlight. The forest grew colder as we climbed. The ruined shrine appeared just before dawn. Broken stone, moss-covered steps, and the fate stain where sacred blood had once touched the altar. "This is where it happened," he said quietly. We returned to Pak Manor before sunrise, but later that day, I returned alone. The sun was sinking when I reached the shrine again. Long shadows stretched across the forest floor. The air grew colder as dusk approached. Perfect timing. I knelt before the altar. "I know you can hear me," I said. "I offer an exchange." The wind stirred the trees. "A life for a life. Let me give mine in place of my child." The forest grew silent. Then a voice echoed through the shrine. Another voice spoke. "No." Behind me, leaves rustled. I turned. Yonghwa. He had followed me. He wore only a single outer robe, hastily thrown over his shoulders. The silk was torn in several places, the edges ragged, as though it had been dragged through thorns or teeth. His hair fell loose across his shoulders. He looked strangely vulnerable standing before the shrine. His green eyes watched me with restless urgency as he spoke. "If a life must be taken," he said steadily, "take mine. Let my wife and child live." The mountain trembled. Lightning split the sky. The curse struck him instantly. His body convulsed, bones twisted, and the tiger rose again. But this time, there was no recognition in its eyes, only rage. The beast lunged. I ran, through the forest. Branches tore at my clothing. The tiger pursued relentlessly. All night, we climbed the mountain, across ravines, over jagged stone, until the sky slowly began to pale. At last, I reached the summit. A sheer cliff blocked the path ahead. There was nowhere left to go. The tiger approached slowly. Its breath steamed in the cold dawn air. I drew the dagger Yonghwa had once given me. The beast roared and leapt. Then, for a single impossible moment, the fury in those green eyes changed. I had seen that look before, on the night our marriage was consummated, when he kissed the scar everyone else avoided. The leap shifted. The blade sank deep. The tiger collapsed. I caught him as he fell. "My lord," I whispered. His body trembled once. Then slowly, Yonghwa returned. Tears blurred my vision. "You foolish man," I whispered. "I told you I would not lose you." His hand tightened weakly around mine. "I could not let you die." A crack of thunder split the sky. The mountain gods spoke once more. "Love has balanced the debt." Light flooded the summit. and Yonghwa breathed again. Months later, our son was born. We named him Ilhoon, and the golden doors of Pak Manor were never locked again. The twisting corridors beyond them were torn down, and the hidden courtyard where the beast once slept was transformed into a garden. We named it the Golden Court. Sometimes I walk there with Yonghwa beside me, and when our son crawls across the grass between us, I remember the moment I first opened the golden door. A door that once hid a monster, but had only ever guarded the heart of the man I loved.